My USC prediction is finally here. We're going to get into all of that, plus more info on a potential PHL meetup, baby, this Friday. Let's go.
It's Power Hour LSU.
PHL, extra little bit of swag, an extra little bit of taste.
Yeah. Man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter, man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter, man, I'm headed to the field.
So I have so much I want to say about this game, but more importantly, I am happy to announce we just agreed with another PHL partner. You'll learn more about them later in the week. I believe LSU will beat USC, but by how much? What will the total actually be? I'll share how I think this game will play out. We will also, as we normally do on our Wednesday live streams, for those that know, we start diving a little bit deeper into the rest of the SEC. Now, important notice, we will not be doing a pregame show like we normally do before every game. We will have a halftime show. We will also have a postgame show. So really, really freaking excited about that. So welcome in Max, welcome in Dante. And this is where I will be, barring some kind of miracle, on Friday night. My favorite place to hang in Vegas is actually where I stayed in Vegas. And Bengal Tiger, Matthew Brune, who joined us, Shay Dixon, and 104.5, along with Fred's Bar, they'll be doing something Friday, 5 to 9, and it's free. So it's a downtown pep rally. All you have to do is go to this link right here, circavegas.com, and sign up, RSVP for a free general entry. I'll post a link down below, but this is where I will be Friday night. I will get there early as well. So if you want to meet up, feel free to shoot me a message at Power Hour LSU on Twitter or Instagram. And I love Circa. I was planning on doing something there on Saturday anyway. But why not do it on Friday? It's free. And that place is freaking incredible. So I don't know if I'm going to be there for the whole time, but more than likely, that is where I will be. Now, if something changes, I will announce on Power Hour LSU that I will be there. Okay. But I love Circa. I really, really, really do. So there you go. Now, we go to Saints Nation. And as always, if you have a super chat, fire it in. We're not going to be going too long tonight. Carter, it's honestly crazy to think USC's defensive line can compete with LSU's offensive line. You know as well as I do, LSU will move the ball, pun not intended, at will. Yes, I do believe they'll be running a lot of outside zone to the left, and they're going to let Will Campbell decide this game. But let's not belittle the USC defensive line. I'm not as big of a Bear Alexander fan as others. He takes plays off. It's been a little bit of a diva career. This is the first time he's been with a team for more than, I believe, a year. I think he transferred 4 times in high school, and then obviously he transferred from Georgia to USC, and then people thought he was going to transfer from USC to somewhere else. So it shows that he's finally committed to a certain school, and he's actually going to stay with USC this next year. But he's good. Right? I feel he will play motivated because it is the first game of the year and there will be a lot of eyeballs that will be watching. Anthony Lucas is also a really good defensive end for him. That was a guy that LSU actually recruited pretty hard out of New Mexico. And he's a solid player. He had a solid year last year for USC. So this unit, they also have a transfer DT from Wyoming. We talked about Kamari Ramsey, I believe is his name, number 7, the safety who comes over from UCLA, who's run their defense. Now, this blew my mind. A lot of you remember this guy as well. Rajon Davis, who was the first commit of Ed Orgeron's 2020 class. He ended up flipping to USC. He's from Mater Dei High School. He's actually still on their roster, but he's not any good. He's a backup, so he's okay. But a lot of LSU influence, guys that LSU recruited. Miller Moss was someone LSU recruited. Gree Vance, still on the defensive side of the football, is going to play a lot at defensive back. He started his career with Florida. Well, actually, he didn't start his career at Florida State. He was somewhere else before that. And he's from Edna Carr High School in New Orleans. So this is a very interesting game with a few players that LSU recruited. Not as much as a Florida State game as last year. Do I believe the LSU offense will be able to move the football in USC? Yes. Do I believe it takes a while for a system like D'Anton Lynn's to really settle in with new players? Yes, because it's a pretty drastic change from what Alex Grinch did last year. Do I think D'Anton Lynn will eventually have a good defense at USC? I do. I just don't know if it's going to happen in this first year. One more thing I would say about USC is I do think they did an overall better job in the transfer portal defensively than LSU, if that makes sense. So, I do think LSU will be able to move the football on USC, but I don't think this USC defense is a run over like last year's USC defense. Okay. So you get a little unlucky that the year you play USC, an all-time bad college football defensive coordinator is gone. But there you go. Same thing is true on the LSU side of things. So as far as my game prediction, I released a few more takes that I won't share here on some bigger concerns with this LSU offense. Please go sign up for the PHL Patreon. That's patreon.com/LSU football. The link is down below. But I freaking love me some Miller Moss. I think there will be some turnovers from both of these quarterbacks. I still stand by my bold prediction. There will be a special teams touchdown, and there will also be a pick six in this game. And if that were to happen, this will be a high scoring game. And it is interesting that the projections open this up to 66, and that is an extremely cartoonishly high number. And it's been down all the way to 62. So it's very, very interesting. Cole says the running clock will affect the games this year. Bet the unders over the weekend. Well, there's no new clock rules from last year to this year, but I get what you're saying. Also, the running clock, like over the year, it does cut down plays. But at the same time, I don't think it cuts off as many seconds as you think it does, right? It used to be that they waited for the sticks to fully be set up before they would start running the clock again. Now they wait about 2 or 3 seconds and they start running it again, right? One thing that also helps out a running clock, and it's very underrated, and it was in play for Florida State and Georgia Tech, completions. One of the things that burns clock the most are completions. The only thing, and there's only one thing outside of calling a timeout and scoring the football, there's only one thing that happens quite a bit that stops the clock, and that's an incompletion. Everything else, the clock continues to run outside of 2 minutes. So if there is a game between two high completion percentage quarterbacks with low ADOTs, go bet the under. Go bet the under. But if you throw moon balls like both of these quarterbacks like to do, and if there's a turnover or two, that helps you over. One thing that helps you over, pick sixes and special teams touchdowns. So I started off being an under guy. Now I'm leaning towards this game clearing the over. Okay. I've changed my opinion on this the deeper I've looked into these teams. So before I give you my score prediction, which I've already kind of sort of did this week. Give me your score prediction in the chat right now. Give it to me, and give it to me hot, steaming, right off the press. Give it to me. So, let's take a look at our poll question. What happens? 62% of you likes LSU by 5 or more. 19% of you, LSU, but by 4 or less. And 19% of you say USC is going to win. All right. Add 62 and 19 together. What do you get? What do you get? You get 83 or you get 81. All right. 81%. Now, if you've watched last night, you already know. The stat that should have you worried. And this is an LSU channel. Okay. When we're talking about bets in Vegas, it's everybody. 87% of the bets at DK Sportsbook has been LSU by 4.5 or more, or 5 or more. 87. So more so than a group of LSU fans that are likely watching this channel, the public loves LSU to win this game comfortably. Does that concern you? Well, it should. You never want to be on that heavy of a public side, especially if you're not Colorado, where people just bet it because Deion's a celebrity. Okay. S. Young says 38-35 LSU. Base Pill Clip says 56-28 LSU. Know Thyself, Know Thy Truth, 42-32 USC. Donta Williams, 31-24 LSU. Okay. LSU better watch out. Luis Padilla. USC will have a top 25 defense to get them in. And the number one offense. You will have the number one offense. I don't even think Lincoln Riley believes he's going to have the number one offense this year. Top 5 offense, I can get with it. Number 1. So once again, I'll be at Circa. You do have to reserve your slot. I already have. And I'm pretty pumped up. Seems like a pretty cool event. I love Circa. I wonder what the winning percentage is when a team dominates another team in the trenches versus having more skilled players. I mean, it's just too hard to quantify, right? Because what constitutes dominating the other team in the trenches? I mean, there's not really, I mean, you could go look at PFF grades maybe, but are we sure LSU is going to dominate USC in the trenches? I would like to think so. All right. Now, let's see. When I get there, I do want to get in a fist fight with the USC fan, not a UFC fan, USC fan. I want to get in one fist fight because every time I go to Vegas, there's fist fights at sporting events. Okay. And it's almost always someone wearing a jersey. Okay. Now, Luis Padilla continues his delusion. He says, I'm sorry your head coach is not a winner. According to history, Brian Kelly is not a winner. Brian Kelly's not a winner, despite having consecutive 10-win seasons at LSU. And also being the winningest coach of one of the most storied programs in college football history. But he is not a winner. Lincoln Riley, though, is a winner. He will have a big year. He is the best. This is the best coaching staff he's ever had in his coaching career. Yeah. I would like Lincoln Riley to win a playoff game before we, start calling him a winner. All right. Now, I could say the same thing about Brian Kelly as well. But when you look at their resumes, and honestly, outside of just a few coaches, Brian Kelly's resume is just dominating everybody else that's still coaching now. Okay. Brian Kelly is also 8-2 versus USC. Tell him. Soldier boy, tell him. Now, I do want to talk about some injury news. Miles Frazier, I believe, will play. I do. Just my best educated guess. Don't know a gazillion % certainty on that. But the big story is Chris Hilton with this bone bruise. Kyle Parker being his top backup. I would be a little bit more concerned about Chris Hilton's bone bruise if this was last year's team. But the reason why I'm not is if LSU wants to run more 12 personnel, then you're not going to be locked into 11 personnel as heavy as LSU was last year. So LSU, relative to expectation compared to the rest of college football, was in 11 personnel more than 80% of the time. Okay. So on average, college football teams are in 11 personnel around 64 to 65% of the time, according to my good buddy J. Bud Davis. Okay. So LSU on 8.5 out of every 10 snaps had 3 wide receivers on the field, where in just regular college football, on average, they would have 6.5. Out of 6.5 plays out of every 10, they would have 3 wide receivers on the field. Okay. So what does that mean? Well, if that's the case and LSU wants to run more 12 personnel, that would mean that their 11 personnel usage would probably go down to about nationwide average. Okay. So if we know that a team runs roughly 50 plays a game, well, 8.5 to 2.5 is 2. All right. So 2 times 5, 50 is a very low end plays per game. Normally that's in the higher 60s. Then that would mean there would be roughly anywhere from 5 to 10 less snaps in 11 personnel, which would go to 12 personnel or potentially 10 personnel, which is rare. So if LSU really does want to do that, and Brian Kelly has mentioned that a few times, then the loss of Chris Hilton isn't as big as it was last year when LSU's tight end room just wasn't that deep. Mac Markway was only a true freshman, and he's gone now. And Kamarion Pimpton was only a true freshman. Now, Pimpton is a sophomore and getting a lot of buzz from LSU. He was a top 5 player for me in last year's class, got the coveted year 1 grade for me. So if he's going to play more and trade as Green plays, then it's not as important that Chris Hilton's not out there. But that still doesn't mean he's not very important. This is a guy who is at the jugs machine every day, definitely the fastest receiver on the team, definitely more than likely the fastest player on the team. It's probably either him, Michael Turner, Jelani Watkins, or Caden Durham. But he's mixing experience. He's definitely the best deep threat. So, or I wouldn't say that, the best field stretcher. It is a loss if he can't go. Okay. And Jerry going in hot. So that's where I am with Chris Hilton. It's a big loss. It is still a big loss if he can't go. Okay. Still a big loss. Okay. Now, how do I feel? And this is about where I am with Miller Moss going into this game, going up against LSU's defense. LSU's defense is mostly healthy at this point. By the way, they did do a stadium tour of the video scoreboards. Okay, and I'll show this here from Scott Rabelais. Okay. I'll go ahead and show it to you if you've not seen it already. Brand new scoreboards at LSU. Okay. Bang. Yeah, let's go ahead and full screen this thing. Move that. All right. I'll turn the volume down as well. Looks nice. Looks really nice. And then, of course, nothing's really changed on this side. Trying to figure out. I want to go to the Ole Miss game, but look at that thing, man. Dope. Looks nice. Place gonna be crazy. But yeah, as far as Miller Moss is concerned, he's a really good starting quarterback. I think he's got a chance to be all Big Ten. I know most would probably pick Howard out of Ohio State, and I get that. AP says $17 million. It better be nice. But yeah, at this point, I do think LSU's defense has enough to get it done. I really do believe so. Okay. 152 feet is how big the board is. Now, really interesting story today. LSU Sports Radio Network will not have Doug Moreau in the broadcast booth for the first time in basically 7 years. This man has been doing LSU football broadcasts. I know Skipper listens to the radio. I think that's Patrick Wright to the far right. He calls it women's basketball. And to the far left, that's Jim Nichols. I knew Jim when I was still living in LSU. He's the spotter. Okay. And Doug was a player at LSU, played tight end in the 60s, I believe. He's been doing radio for a very long time. It will be Jacob Hester taking over as the color commentator for games this year. So best of luck to Doug. Obviously, this is the second voice of LSU football that will not be available this, or at least for Dan Bornay at the beginning of the season. We had the Dan Bornay health scare, and now you have this with Doug. So I wish him the absolute best in his recovery. Okay? I do. Now, coming up next, one very, and I mean very underrated piece for Sunday's game that we have not discussed. That's coming up right after this. Home is where the heart is, and our friends at NOPOD Roofing really takes that to heart. 504-810-8744. Give them a call today for all of your roofing needs. And one of my favorite things about NOPOD Roofing is their versatility. They not only do roofing, they do siding, they do painting, they do tree removal, fencing, anything home improvement. Our friends at NOPOD will get you straight. Give them a call today at 504-810-8744 and let them know PHL and Carter the Power sent you. We never overpromise and always over-deliver with NOPOD, baby. Let's go. Book your 360 spin booth experience today with Zion Imaging. Yes, that's my buddy Jaron Thomas who started this venture years ago. And look at the smiles on these faces. This state-of-the-art photo booth is so incredible. I work in the wedding and event industry, and anytime I see a 360 photo booth, it takes your event, whether it's a reunion, a wedding, a conference, no matter what it is, it takes it to another level. Give them a follow on Facebook. Book them today. There is a special deal going on now where you can get up to 40% off. This is all the info. Give them a call today, 318-469-4265, or go to Zion Imaging. That's XYAN Imaging.com.
I think joy and happiness and doing things you like is important.
My favorite thing is sports cards. When I'm not on YouTube, I am building my collection. And when I started, I wish there was a sports card strategy show.
He wasn't necessarily going to be a first-round pick before all this Heisman buzz. Now they're talking about him being a top 5 pick.
Paul Hickey and the team at nooffseason.com personally helped build my Jaden Daniels collection, and they're looking to do the same for you. Just check them out on social media or nooffseason.com. All right, I want to talk a little bit about Jair Brown as we get into this first game. We do have a little bit of breaking news. There is a huge number controversy with Malik Neighbors. And I mean huge numbers controversy. He couldn't wear number 9, which is what he's been wearing in practice, because he shared the number 9 with the kicker. And he said the number needed to be a single digit. The number 1 jersey for the New York Giants has been retired. And, well, the Giants legend who wore the number, Ray Flaherty, decided to give Malik the number. So Malik putting some added pressure, not only getting the Uno, but on top of getting the Uno, having to unretire a jersey for him. I think Malik is going to help people know who Ray Flaherty is. I never heard of him before today, so that's good news for Ray Flaherty. It's also good news for Malik Neighbors. I couldn't watch Malik Neighbors, and I prefer my wide receivers to wear jersey numbers in the 80s. It's extinct. I love the way that it looks. But Malik is an Uno. We can all agree Malik is an Uno. All right? I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, I've been called out in the chat. It is now time for me to reveal my Vegas haircut. Now, would you prefer type C for Chili Bowl or type N for normal haircut? Let me know which one you would prefer, and I will reveal which one I have. Type C for Chili Bowl, type N for normal. C for Chili Bowl. Dude, there's so many people that have said this. That's a new Iberia cut. I swear to God, someone else dropped that same comment on my Facebook page. Do people in New Iberia really all rock this haircut? Like, seriously, you are not the only one that has said this. All right, I'm ready to see. Type C for Chili Bowl. Type N for normal. And then we'll talk a little bit more about Jair Brown. Because I think Jair Brown could play a lot in this game. Major Burns will be the slot corner. Okay. The nickel, the star. And Sabanese, sometimes they call it the money. And look, if they put Zachariah Branch in that spot, that could be a very difficult matchup for a guy who's not known for coverage in Major Burns. But Major Burns has had a really good camp, and I'm very excited to see him play that role. Okay? LSU has lots of weapons on paper at wide receiver and tight end, but how can they possibly utilize them all? I've only seen 19 LSU and 20 Bama really do it. Yeah, you know what's interesting about this comment is, it takes a really, really good quarterback, a distributor, a guy that doesn't force it to one guy but throws to the open guy, the right option. Okay? I think all of them can be fed if all of them is condensed, if that makes sense. Okay? And what do I mean by that? Well, I hate heavy rotations at wide receiver. I really do. Tighten it. I want my wide receiver rotation to be no more than 5 players. All right? And going into the year, the big 5, Chris Hilton, Kyron Lacey, and C.J. Daniels that kind of separated themselves. And then the next 2 was Aaron Anderson and Xavier Thomas. But what's very interesting is LSU is electing to go with Kyle Parker. Now, this might not be how this actually works out, but Kyle Parker will be the more one-on-one substitution with Chris Hilton, who is more of your true XZ outside guy. So, first off, Brian, thank you for your first super chat of the evening. But hopefully, the weapons that need to be fed are fed. Okay. And if we're being honest, who are the most dangerous players after the ball is in their hands. All right. That's what I ask myself. Who are the guys that can really move the needle when the football is in their hands? And up to this point in their careers, the real deadly guys are Kyron Lacy and Xavier Thomas. All right. CJ Daniels has proven it, but not necessarily against elite competition like those other two have. And Caleb Jackson and Josh Williams have proven it to a certain degree. We'll see as both of their workloads will likely increase this next season. So there you go. But yeah, I think all of them can be utilized throughout the season. But by all of them, I mean a condensed group, right? Like it is interesting that Shelton Sampson, who's at a really good camp, Kyle Parker gets that run over Shelton Sampson. All right. And by the way, Kyle Parker in that wide receiver class was actually my number 2 guy. I was a big Kyle Parker fan. He's younger, very young for a sophomore. So a lot of freshmen come in at Kyle Parker's current age, if that makes sense. This is Cole showing some love to Brian after a super chat. I love to see it. You're right. Chris Hilton has been hurt, right? You know, one thing that's worked against Chris is, yes, he's one of the hardest working players on the team. He's been one of the guys that has stuck it out. He could have gone in the portal, got a good bag to go somewhere else and be by far the number 1 guy. But he waited his turn behind Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas, outlasted guys like Jack Besh and so on and so on. And now we're at this spot in his career. The big thing that's worked against him, though, is while his personality and his off-the-field actions make him one of the more reliable leaders on the team, on the field, reliability has been an issue, okay? Whether it be health, he has not really been a healthy player throughout his career. And then also when he's played, it's been, a bunch of inconsistency. A drop here, a drop there. That drop early versus Ole Miss was critical. It's been tough. It's been tough. Early in his career, he would go down easy after the catch. But then we had the Wisconsin game, which was a Brian Thomas Jr. level performance versus Wisconsin. It was that good from Chris. So I still think he's going to have a big year. I really do. I still think you're going to get 25, 30 catches for that 350, 400, 450 yard range. It doesn't sound like a lot, but that is a lot. When Kyron Lacy and Mason Taylor and a bunch of other really talented players are in there. But you got to be healthy. You got to be, willing to go. Okay. Yeah, that was a tough one. It wasn't the easiest grab, but if he would have just kept running, he would have just walked in for a touchdown. And it goes back to what I've always said about football. One of the most underrated things you can do in football is stay on your feet. I mean, honestly, just stay standing. Now, for any one of us, if we actually played Division I college football, if we went out there in our current state, it would be hard for any of us to stay on our feet. It's hard as hell to stay on your feet. There's 22 people in a condensed area trying to knock each other's head off. People fall down a lot. And it's not sometimes because of a hit. It's just because of the speed of play. You think you need to dive, but you don't, right? You think you need to dive for a tackle or you don't. The only time you should leave your feet is if you're diving and you know you have to dive to make a catch, or if you know you have to dive to make a tackle. But other than that, stay on your feet the best you can, okay? Stay upright for as long as you can. If you know for certain you're bringing, as a tackler, him to the ground, then leave your feet and bring him to the ground, okay? So please keep your feet if you play. It is so underrated. And, you go listen, that there was a Kirby Smart speech that most people thought was before the TCU game, but it was actually before some other game, but it was leaked around the TCU game. And in the middle of this cursing tirade, he said, stay off the ground. All right. The best coaches tell their players, we don't want you on the ground. Hunter, who played, can confirm. S. Young says, I want to see some 13 personnel. I think you will see some of that. But the difference is Taylor's overall really good blocker. Pimpton's gotten better. Do you really want Green out there blocking? Well, I'll tell you this. He had some good blocking reps, and I showed some of them in one of our Patreon film studies. And ask anyone that's a patron. Ask them if they're getting their money's worth with some of the extra stuff that we have, plus the Discord community. All right. Trojan says multiple tight ends scream we can't run block with base personnel. That's not necessarily true. You know, one of the best run blocking offensive lines I've ever seen was 2022 Georgia, and they ran a lot of 12 personnel. What that tells me is you want to out-gap teams in the run game, and that's what 12 personnel helps you do, especially if you have tight ends that can go out there and catch, which LSU does. Then you can spread them out and get guys in very non-advantageous looks, okay? Y'all, I'm on fire. I'm on fire today. Like, I really feel like I'm in a flow state. I know I try to keep the 1 hour stream 1 hour on Wednesdays, but I feel like I can go all night. I still got to go pack for Vegas. And by me, my wife is packing me for Vegas because she is absolutely lovely. Congrats to Garrett Nussmeyer. You got the Powerade bag before the season. You know who else got the Powerade bag before last season? Jaden freaking Daniels. Okay? Jaden Daniels got the Powerade bag. Is that a sign of things to come? Ladies and Gentiles, I believe that it is. I believe that it is. Now, you can go to Power Hour SEC. And on Power Hour SEC, I just released my 5 boldest predictions. The first one you're probably not going to like for next season. 5 boldest predictions. Oh, Jerry's telling me I need to go watch film. I've never done such a thing in my life. I mean, who actually goes back and watches the games? When the game is done, it's done. I never watch it after the fact. Me, never. I just release hot takes. I don't actually watch the games. Oh, man. How did this best line of all time that's ever played give up 22 sacks? I don't know what you're referencing. Mike G coming in hot. LSU 41, USC 24. And I will block everyone that's not giving their score prediction. I got to clean this up. I did get clearance today from the doctor that I can shave this, but I don't know. I feel like this little half soul patch thing is going to give LSU luck. Like, I feel it. This is my new trademark. The half thing. That's what it's going to be. Okay. So just get used to it. That's about where I am. Now, I do want to also shout out Dylan Cruz. He hit a home run earlier today. I am not allowed to show it. Burt Boyd, 34-24, doesn't let me know who's going to win. Dundee, LSU 31, USC 24. Trey says it is a lucky soul patch. Amacat, LSU 35-24. Okay. Malik Neighbors getting number 1. Let's go, dude. Jamar Chase might actually hold out. That's crazy. God. Dylan freaking Cruz. Okay. Now, Fevered Mind says 35-28 South USC. Okay. Let's keep it going. Everyone, welcome Calevra to the channel. Thank you so much for your generosity. Interested in seeing how LSU utilizes Wit Weeks. I think Wit Weeks and Perk 7 creates the best blitz package for LSU, not loving Burns in the slot. So, here's what I will tell you, Calevra. Okay. I'm very skeptical of Major Burns in the slot as well. I do think, though, they will move him around. I think there could be a world where Major Burns becomes a pseudo linebacker in nickel and dime packages. I think there could be a world where Blake Baker gets really exotic with his nickels and dimes in clear passing downs. So that means taking Guillory off the field. That means taking Paez off the field, getting 3 ends along the defensive line, and also putting Perk at the line of scrimmage. And then that means potentially taking Major Burns off the field or moving him to backer, taking Greg Penn off the field and put a Wit Weeks on, putting a more of a coverage guy like Jair Brown on the field. I do think Blake Baker will move more guys in and out, especially if we're facing teams that don't like to go fast. Now, Lincoln Riley, he likes to play fast, right? He's an air raid guy. But he can slow it down some, and then after incompletions in particular, you can get very exotic with your numbers and stuff like that. Okay. Now, Trojan Fight says, this hyped-up offensive line with 2 first-round picks got Daniel sacked 22 times last season. Oregon, in comparison, only gave up 5 sacks. Okay. This is the easiest thing to, refute. All right. 22 sacks. Okay. Jaden as a quarterback gets sacked a lot. The year before he took a lot of sacks. So Jaden likes to hold on to the ball, tuck and run. Thus, it will lead to more sacks. Oregon had one of the lowest average depths of target in college football. Okay. Bo Nix had an extremely high completion percentage. And what we tend to do is just think of sacks being an offensive line stat when it's not. Sacks are more so a quarterback stat. Now, if your offensive line is just hot dog water, let's say Arkansas's last year, they were absolutely terrible, then it is on your offensive line getting your quarterback sacked. But it has as much to do oftentimes as your play caller and your quarterback, right? James, that's just his style. He gets sacked a lot. Joe Burrow got sacked a lot, right? They like to hold on and really try and make plays. Bo Nix is very quick in his decision-making. You even see that with the Denver Broncos, who I've already done film studies. Now, Will Campbell, if you were sitting here, would tell you, hey, 22 sacks is too much. It's on us. And, yeah, there were times where LSU's offensive line did have some rough pass protection moments. I'd be the first to admit that, right? But they did a really good job. And that's why you actually got to watch the games and also understand that sacks is not an offensive line stat. We like to think that it is. And part of why we like to make sacks an offensive line stat is actually something we subjectively like to do when it's tough to quantify how good something is, right? For offensive line, we don't have any stats other than PFF grades, pancakes, and so on. So we naturally want to have a way of quantifying offensive line play. So we just magically make sacks an offensive line stat when it's not. So, yeah, if Will Campbell were sitting right here, he would say we, as an offensive line, need to be under 10 sacks on the season, right? He wouldn't make excuses. But I'm just adding some extra context. Also, if we're being fair here, LSU played a lot of really good pass rushers, okay? So Dallas Turner was a first-round pick. Chris Braswell, also a draft pick. Missouri's Robinson was a first-round defensive end as well. So there was a lot of really good pass rushers. Princely Ulamimian, who transferred to Ole Miss, is going to be a pretty high draft pick next year. So they played a lot of good pass rushers as well. So, yeah, 22, I don't – it is a higher number, but I'll be honest with you. This offensive line is really good. It is the most talented offensive line I've ever seen assembled. Now they just have to go out there and execute it, and a lot of it's going to come down to the quarterback and the play calling. Okay? It's interesting, Jason, you say Foreman here, because one thing that is working against USC is they've had, like LSU over the past few years now, they've had a lot of their 4- and 5-star guys kind of flame out, right? USC, spent a lot of time recruiting Tackett Curtis. He's already out. Okay. Corey Foreman was the number 1 overall player in the country. LSU spent a lot of time recruiting Corey Foreman. He was close with Mason Smith. Corey Foreman went to USC and has done nothing, close to nothing. I don't even think he's on the team anymore. I didn't see him on the roster. I don't think he's there. Let me see. I studied USC's roster up and down. Let me see if Corey Foreman is still on there. No, I don't think he is. We got a bunch of USC guys watching. No, he's gone. So USC is like LSU. They're hurting in that a lot of their guys didn't pan out. Okay. He went to Fresno State? Calevra, first off, thank you for your first super chat. Calevra, let me know if you're a USC fan or an LSU fan, or if this is your first time commenting. I have always been so grateful. Like last year, Florida State fans, I think, gave me like $400 or $500 in super chats because of the film studies and stuff like that. And now that was very generous. But I always feel grateful when other fan bases watch my stuff, especially out of conference guys, because – does LSU really have any history with USC? Other than the 2003 controversy, there really is no history. Okay? There really isn't. Now, here's what we're going to do. In the next 5 to 10 minutes, I'll answer as many questions as we possibly can. But if you super chat, we'll keep it going. Now, I will tell you. Okay, not first time commenting LSU fan. So, guess what, Calevra? I'm sending you a card. I don't know which one yet. It'll be a really good one. So, Calevra, all you got to do is send me an email, powerhourlsu@gmail.com. I'm in a giving mood, and I'm going to send you something for it being your first super chat. And I don't do that for everyone. I just feel your energy. I feel your energy. Calevra. Rolls off the tongue beautifully. So, Burt Boy reports. All right, so Burt Boy is doing all the sports books. I was just using DraftKings, 87% of the bets on LSU. Now it's evened out. 64% of the money on LSU, 55% of the bets on LSU. My 34-24 prediction was, and will always be LSU. Chance, what's good? Eric Henderson. Yeah, so For those who don't know Eric Henderson, he is a defensive line coach that came over from the NFL. All right. And the way Bo Davis is at LSU and Kevin Peoples, USC feels the same way about Eric Henderson and all their defensive hires. So USC not only brought him in, they brought in a North Dakota State head coach to come be their linebackers coach, which is very interesting. Let's see. This comes in from let me send this. This comes in from Eva. Carter, did you talk about Malik Neighbors' jersey number? Yes, I did a few minutes ago. Okay. Yeah, I'm flying Spirit tomorrow. Let's save that for the end. Please put me in your thoughts and prayers. I'm down for a Spirit partnership. I will fly exclusively with Spirit. Hmm. Hmm. All right, Jason, we'll see you. Who would want me to do a live stream tomorrow night? Because I could do one tomorrow night. I'll do it from wherever the hell I'm going to be in Vegas. Huh? Let's go, Chance. We do a live stream from Vegas tomorrow around the city. Spirit Airlines, let's go. I'm ready. I've never done it before. I'm ready. Okay. So that will just about do it for me. Our viewership is up. Obviously, it's football season. I want to be in here, and I want this number to be at 200 every single night I'm on here. Okay. Tuesday nights and Sunday nights are normally my best nights. I'm in the 400s in total viewers. But share it on Facebook. Share it on Twitter. I'm starting to get a lot of people watching on Twitter. But YouTube, of course, is where I prefer everyone to be. Okay. Oh, so you're an SC guy. Well, please keep coming back, man. I'm telling you. We have a bunch of Florida State fans that still come back and watch like way after the fact. Like they're not even fans of anything. Like Fatal Jedi is a Florida State fan that's always in here. Who's the other guy? Rick. He's not the Rick that everyone knows in here, but there's another guy named Rick, Florida State fan. But yeah, keep watching, and I'll shoot you straight as always. So don't forget, Friday night I will be at Circa. It's gonna be a good time. And I'm always down for free, you know? I'm always down for that. It is. Pow, out, LSU, boom. Now, don't forget, don't forget. We have our Miller Moss film study. We also have our Deonta Lynn film study and his Tinder date defense. Okay. Cormier. Yeah, you're too busy hunting these bucks, man. You got to buck up those bucks, bro. Safe travels to you as well. And tonight, top super chatters, Brian and Kalevra wins by a penny. Brian got beat by a penny tonight. Kalevra, congrats. Tonight, we are doing tacos. Let's go.